this morning. When Marilyn came on board as our new president and CEO about 19 months ago now, she took us through a new planning process for the center to really set the stage for where the Ollie Center will be in the future. We are in 2 years, believe it or not, going to celebrate our 20th anniversary. So it felt like a good time to re-examine our purpose, our intent, our identity here in our community. And as part of that process, we were in really intentional dialogue with our community members. We interviewed and we sat and we spoke with over 100 stakeholders in our community who said to us loud and clear that they wanted to see the center be more prominent in our work to create and to bring about a more inclusive and just Louisville. And so as part of that process, we actually changed our mission statement here at the Ollie Center. Prior to last year, our mission said that we existed to preserve and to share the legacy of Muhammad Ali. It was very museum-oriented. It was very curatorial in nature. And now, our mission says that we exist to mobilize the legacy of Muhammad Ali, to foster respect, to inspire generations of changemakers, and to promote social justice. So we truly believe that we are an action-oriented center, just like Muhammad Ali. We are a convener, we are a compassionate center, but we are also a center that its purpose is to take action, to help build Ali's Louisville, the true legacy and ideals of Muhammad. And on this day where we celebrate collective action and the power of collective action, I think it's important to acknowledge that we cannot do that on our own, that we stand here, hopefully arm in arm with our community as we all go out to build the Louisville that we want to pass on to our children. So I offer to all of you to please be in touch with us, to please stand arm in arm, to ask if the center can ever be a part of your work and your journey, can be a part of the good work that you're doing here in Louisville. We certainly want to be a strong community partner to all of those out here who are building a just and inclusive Louisville. So please feel free to be in touch with us. Thank you all so much. We are so very proud. We are so very honored to host this program this morning. And I'm very pleased to be able to welcome to the microphone your two MCs for the day, Haja Kamara and Araceli Lopez. Please welcome them up here.
Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. My name is Araceli Lopez, and I am so glad to be an MC for this event today. I work mostly with La Casita Center, empowering the immigrant community, and I am so happy to be here today.
Good morning, everyone. Everyone looks absolutely amazing. My name is Haja Kamara, and I am one of the MCs of this wonderful event. We are so excited to welcome you to Women's Equality Day 2023. Awesome. Around the country, people are gathering to celebrate the 19th Amendment and the ongoing struggle for gender equity. With this year's theme of Our Voices Matter, we are so thrilled to center and engage youth leaders and address some of the areas of women's rights and gender equity that are most pressing today. Growing up in an immigrant single mother household, I witnessed the incredible power and resilience of women every day, especially through my mother's example. And that is why I am here today, to continue showcasing our strength and highlighting the remarkable leaders in our community. We also want to make sure you saw the art exhibit made by the students from Georgia Taffy Tap School on your way in. Their exhibit is called Our Voices Matter, which was the inspiration for today's theme. Welcome also to all the students and young leaders here today, including the students from Grace James Academy and the Louisville Girls Leadership.
We also want to thank everybody for making today possible, including the Ollie Center, the Planning Committee, and all of those who are helping make this event equitable and accessible for everyone, including our child care providers and our sign language and Spanish interpreters.
And now we want to invite Deputy Mayor Barbara Sexton Smith, a long-standing advocate for women's rights and gender equity, to the stage to pronounce a proclamation for Women's Equality Day.
You all would wait with me, right here. Buenos dias. Hey, y'all. How'd I do? I was trying to sort of be in the same theme. What a beautiful day. This is the day the Lord hath made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome, everyone. I am Deputy Mayor Barbara Sexton Smith, and when he calls and sends you in, you don't say, why me, why not her? So when Mayor Greenberg, Craig Greenberg, the 51st mayor of the great city of Louisville, started putting his cabinet together to run this great city and the 5,000 plus men and women that work at Louisville Metro government, his hand was directed to tap me on the shoulder, and how lucky did I get. Ladies and gentlemen and friends and brothers and sisters, the offices that Mayor Craig Greenberg has asked me to lead are, first, the Office of Equity, which includes the Office for Women, Human Relations Commission, and Office of Immigrant Affairs. Yes. And he asked me to run the Office of Sustainability, and I know climate change is part of our conversation today. And yes, he has named an executive director, Joy McAtee, a woman to head up equity, Sumedha Rao, a young woman who's only been in America a few years, to lead the Office of Sustainability. And there's one more, as they say on that QVC, but wait, there's more. I think one of the job requirements to be working in the mayor's office, you have to be a little entertaining, and I can't sing. And then the Office of Philanthropy, whose main focus is none other than early childhood education, to provide quality, affordable, accessible early childhood education to all 20,000 3- and 4-year-olds in our community. And yes, it's a woman, Mariana Barzin, who leads up that effort. Standing on this stage just last night was the first Black woman to be named permanent chief of police of the Louisville Metro Police Department. The first Black woman to be head of a police department in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and the history of the great city of Louisville, on the eve and the precipice of Women's Equality Day. Women matter, and yes, our voices matter, which means our words matter. I have something I want to say about words for just a moment, because words and numbers matter. Yes, there was the 15th Amendment. We all know what that brought to us. Guess what they did? They removed 6 words, because words matter, from the 15th Amendment when they wrote the 19th Amendment. Ladies, I submit to you, there are 28 words left in the 19th Amendment. Would you like to know the word they added when they removed the other words? Does anyone know? It's the one word that explains how we all got here. Sex. Yes, I said it. Was that Elmer Lucille Allen laughing when I said that? Okay, when she laughs, it gives us all permission to laugh. That's right. It said that women received the right to vote, and that you could not deny that privilege based on your sex. So I say to you, on the 123rd anniversary, 1, 2, 3, words matter, numbers matter. Those of you who are mathematicians, the Fibonacci sequence in mathematical equations is where you add the 3 numbers in a row together. Guess what 1, 2, 3 adds up to? Make no mistake about it, he is in charge. That adds up to 6. 6 words were removed. We are in the Muhammad Ali Center. This center exemplifies the 6 principles by which he lived his life. I just wanted to give a sermon this morning. Thank y'all. So as I prepare to present and read this brief proclamation to our 2 MCs this day, I do also want to submit to you, we must never forget, lest ye never forget. There are so many women who fought this fight. And when I looked up the 12 leading, most memorable names of the suffrage movement, 5 of those names were Black women. That's right. They fought that fight together. It started with Lucretia Mott, Susan B. Anthony, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Soon came thereafter Sojourner Truth, whose first name really was Isabella. Then came Ida B. Wells and Lucy Harper. Yes, it did, and the names go on and on. Ain't I a woman, Sojourner said, and we're all bound up together. Don't ever forget it. Here we go. Now comes for the official reading of the proclamation. On behalf of Mayor Craig Greenberg and First Lady Rachel Greenberg, Louisville Metro, Craig Greenberg, Mayor, greetings to whom all these presents shall come. Know ye that August 26, 2023 is hereby proclaimed in Louisville, Kentucky to be Women's Equality Day. The mayor urges officially all residents and anyone visiting this great, fine city to recognize this special recognition. So I present this to our two MCs. If you would like for me to make a second one so you each can have one to take home, I can do that. But wait, there's more. There is a 24-karat fake gold seal on the front. And on this, another round of 24-karat fake gold. So as I prepare to take my seat, I would also like to recognize there are a number of elected officials in the room. So if you are a current or a former elected official or appointed official, please stand up. Come on, women. Come on. We got a judge in the house. Yes, we do. Ladies, congratulations, buenos dias, and morning, y'all.
Now, we want to invite representatives of the Office of Women, League of Women Voters, and Delta Sigma Theta to share more about their work and why today is important.
Good morning. So this morning, or coming into this, I had two goals leading up to giving these remarks. One was to tone my arms, and the other was to eliminate my anxiety, and I managed to do one of those things. Earlier this week, I was listening to Fresh Air on NPR, and the guest was Drew Gilpin Faust. She's the first female president of Harvard University, serving from 2007 to 2018. But outside of that designation, she's a civil rights activist and a historian. And there was a piece from that interview that really stood out to me. Something one of Dr. Faust's teachers implanted in her was, have the courage to be disturbed, to learn about events like the Holocaust and see what evil can mean, to learn about slavery and think about exploitation that is empowered by an ideology of race that we haven't entirely dismantled. Understand what people did in the past so that you can, in the present, critique your own assumptions, your own blindnesses, and make a world that's a better world. I represent the Office for Women as an ambassador for women and individuals across the gender spectrum throughout Louisville Metro. I was honored to be selected for the first cohort of Office for Women ambassadors and engage with peers who share my passions and who introduced me to new passion projects that can help improve and enhance the lives of women in our community. Over the first 6 months of this year, our group of ambassadors, 26 women and gender diverse individuals that represent Louisville Metro, were provided with training and resources and put in contact with key personnel so we could use our voices, and raise the voices of those around us, because our voices matter. Reflecting on what Dr. Faust shared during that Fresh Air interview, we allowed ourselves the courage to be disturbed by the realities of what happens around us and to learn about these issues. We better understand the evils of intimate partner violence, gun violence, child abuse. We understand the exploitation of human trafficking victims, migrant workers, and refugees. We understand the challenges of balancing parenting and working, the challenges of not having enough choices or having no choice at all. And we also understand the successes, the triumphs, the glass ceilings and barriers that have been broken. It's evident here and now in this room today. We are in the presence of amazing people who have fought for women's equality, who have been the first, and who won't be the last. We have a historical foundation here in Louisville and in the United States that we can utilize to fill in our personal knowledge gaps, to foster acceptance, to empower women, to make our voices heard, and to make a better world. Thanks to Gretchen and the Office for Women, we have the tools to advocate, to get involved in government, and to support others on their journey for equality, wherever they are within that movement. The Office for Women raises the status of women and gender-diverse individuals by advancing gender equity through policy programs and education, including economic empowerment, community engagement, gender mainstreaming, and gender-based violence prevention. The office fosters a culture of shared responsibility by building capacity and engagement on gender equity across Louisville Metro. This office envisions Louisville as a community where women and gender-diverse individuals can thrive and where gender equity is the norm. So, let's make gender equity the norm. Let's continue these conversations, not just for Women's Equality Day, but every day. Let's support women so they can be successful in their choices and successful in their roles. Let's remind them that their voices, our voices, matter. Thank you.
Good morning, and before I introduce myself, I want to tell you that as I was leaving today, my husband said, maybe you should call this Women's Superior Day. All right, yes. Sort of like, do we really want to be like them? I'm not sure. My name is Dee Pregliasco, and I'm president of the Louisville League of Women Voters, and I'd like to give you just a little background. The 19th Amendment was passed in 1920. Okay, so we're talking about it's 103 years old. And I want you to know that the National League of Women Voters, as well as the Louisville League of Women Voters, was founded that same year, 1920. So we're very proud of that history, very proud. We are a nonpartisan organization. We are open to anyone age 16 and above, and yes, we do have men members. We work to register voters. Everybody sort of knows that about us. But what we also do is educate voters, and that's a big part of what we do also. We have programs every month. We have one next month that's called Crime and Safety. You're welcome. They're open to the public. They're at our location at Lang House, which is on Ewing in Crescent Hill, and everyone's welcome, and we hope you will come. We're having one in October on election integrity, and in light of what was said recently here, the one in November will be on early childhood education, so please come. Now, the main thing that I would like to emphasize today to everyone here, especially young people, and that is the things that matter to you, the things that were just listed. And it doesn't matter whether it's taxes, education, jobs, whatever it is, guess what? It's a voting issue. If you want people in our Metro Council, our school board, our state representatives and senators, our constitutional officers, you know, they're all on the ballot this fall. Governor, Attorney General, Auditor, Treasurer, Secretary of State. If you want the people that we elect to support the issues that you support, guess what? You have to vote. Every issue, whether it's refugees, immigrants, gender equity, it doesn't matter if it's women, early childhood education, JCPS, it is a voting issue. So you can say it doesn't matter, but guess what? It will affect you whether you vote or not. And we even have one judicial race this fall also for family court. judges who make decisions that affect your lives. So please, if there's one thing you remember about what I said today, please know it is voting. And so the reason August the 26th is the day is that in 1920, that was the official day that the 19th Amendment became law for this country. And that's why this is special, and we always hold Women's Equality Day as close to that date of the 26th, and I'm so excited that today is the 26th. So remember that. Remember all the women that fought for it, all the men who fought for it, and that, in fact, voting matters. Every issue is a voting issue. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Bond, and I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. I work with our chapter's Social Action Committee. I'm also a proud member of the League of Women Voters, and it warms my heart to look around and see this full room on a Saturday morning because it tells me what's important. Delta was founded in 1913 on the campus of Howard University by 22 young women who decided that they wanted to make a difference. So they joined some of the early marches with the suffragettes, and even though at that time they were relegated to positions in the back of the march, they knew it was important, they persevered, and they continued on. So years later, Delta is very, very active in social action. We have 1,000 chapters, collegiate chapters, alumni chapters across the country and throughout the world, and very involved in social action. Some of the things that we participate in, we have a couple of programs for young women. We have a program called Delta Academy, and that's for young women ages 11 to 14 who are interested, well, they're in public school, a lot of them. So we look for opportunities to support them, to help them be successful in public school so that they can then matriculate on to high school and be successful. We also have a program called Delta Gems, and the Gems are those young women who are in high school. So we work with them to ensure that they are successful and have the skills that they need to move on to college, to do well, and then select careers. One of the things that I'm most proud of is the opportunity to participate in encouraging women to run for office and to serve on boards and commissions. Is voting important? Absolutely. Absolutely. We also want to make sure, though, that we are represented at every level of the political process. So we have a program every year, and we will share information on that. If you are interested in running for office, if you are interested in serving on a board or commission, please get in contact with us, and we will share that information with you. In the last 5 years, I'm proud to say that our chapter has given scholarships to young women amounting to about $130,000. So we will continue to do that. We will continue to do that because that work is important. So we want to work together with the League. We want to work together with the Office for Women. We want to work together with Louisville Metro to make this world a better place. So thank you for the opportunity to participate this morning. Enjoy the program.
Thank you to Janisha, Dee, and Sharon. And now to share their voices. Are you guys ready? Yes. The Real Young Prodigies.
Way in the morning on J45.
Yeah, man, I like that. Hey, Rich, where did you say these kids are from?
Louisville, Kentucky.
The real young prodigies. Prodigies.
This is the Crown Remix. Young Prodigy. My curls, my twists, my puffs, my braids, my bento, knots. I edges, lay, short, long, are in a fade. We rock. I I heard in different ways we rock. Yeah, I heard in different ways. Any style we gonna slay. Cause every time I whip my hair around and round and round, you can look but do not touch my crown, my crown, my crown.
Twist it up,
Twist it down
roll your weave
to the ground.
It's my culture,
It's my crown.
but you say it's
Not allowed. You with my pants. What? Don't do that. No cow.
So to my culture.
Win the track.
Touch my heart, you gon' get slapped.
My curls, my twists, my puffs, my braids, my bitches, yeah, knots, I turn up, short, long, I in a fade, we rock, I heard in different ways, we rock, yeah, I heard in different ways, any style we gonna slay, cause every time I whip my hair around and round and round, you can look but do not touch my crown, my crown, my crown.
Lock him
To the flow,
edges laid.
I know you know.
Gotta put, gotta
Both,
It's more than a movement, yo. We pushing P.
that's policy.
You see us, we your TV. No discrimination in our city.
That's on Prodigy. My girls, my twists, my puffs, my braids, my bitches, yeah. What? Turn up, short, long, I in a fade, we rock, yeah. What?
Different ways.
We rock, I heard in different ways. Any style we gonna slay, cause every time I whip my hair around and round and round, you can look but do not touch my crown, my crown, my crown.
Man, you know we wearing our locks, our dreads, man, our braids. Stop playing and not just at the laces.
What?
Yeah.
Go money, go money, go money, go money, go money. Yeah, my curls, my twists, my puffs, my braids, my bet you what? Yeah, turn up, short, long, I in a fade, we rock. I heard in different ways, we rock. What? Yeah, okay, any style we gonna slay, cause every time I whip my hair around and round and round, you can look but do not touch my crown, my crown, my crown.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What? Young prodigies.
Okay.
Check the clock. Take a shot. Get shot, shoot shot, don't miss. Spin the block. Take a shot. Get shot, shoot shot, don't miss. It's a block. Take a shot. You either duck or you get hit. Don't choke, don't flop. Big ball, two shot, don't miss. Don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot. Don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot. Don't break, don't break. Shot, 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 shot. Don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot. Pull, we score like Damian Lillard. Wearing a mask, yeah, it's a killer. Running my team, yeah, it's a killer. I stop from the three, you know it's a driller. Look at my shot, look at my flow. Look at the score, we up by 4. Look at the clock, look at the time. Get your shot before I get mine. It feel like nobody worried about this. I'm thinking better, it ain't making sense. I'm in the game, y'all on the play. Yeah, try not to flinch. But I ain't gon' quit. Like Lilo and Stitch. No competition, ain't never gon' miss. Shot, 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 hit.
Making them plays on our shit show out. Shots by the minute, yeah, we always ball out. Letting them hoops like I was a Laker. We sleep at the poppers, yeah, we lose. Come on. Let us around too hard, okay? Society boys
Yeah.
on hard, okay? Talk like it's ready, you better check that score. This your shit, so don't hit that backboard. Life ain't no game,
It's for real.
Down the court, yeah,
Doing my drill.
taking precautions, but stick 'em to kill.
What?
No sugar come next, so get out your field.
Y'all
Y'all
mothers is still. Okay. What? Got everybody in.
Check the board, check the board,
Check
check
the
the board.
board.
People score,
People score, people score.
Body drop,
What?
body drop, more
Yeah.
muscles, throw my judgment.
They preach, they get in that preach, so ruthless.
During the board, you doing the trick. I live a step, baby, I do a push, I copy and paste, I'm doing the blueprint.
Put your fist up right now if y'all tired of the violence.
Are you tired of the violence in your city? Put your fist up.
Rest in peace,
Put your fist up.
Put your fist up. Hey, check the clock. Take a shot. Get shot, shoot shot, don't miss. Spin the block. Take a shot. Get shot, shoot shot, don't miss. It's a block. Take a shot. You either duck or you get hit. Don't choke, don't flop. Big shot, shoot shot, don't miss. Don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot. Don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot. Don't break, don't break. Shot, 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 shot. Don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot.
The name is ready to sound young, but I'm not blind.
Okay.
Young, next the generation. Why? It's my time. Got my buzz, and I've been the fine. I took my shot. I know the lucky, blessed, but lay I'm stressed. I wanna wake up in a dream. Some you will, some you won't. Some you get it, some you don't. We still divided, all we need is you and I do what, okay? Don't come to madness, it can be tragic. I'm the average, I'm the savage. Stepping lavish, you been what?
I'm telling you that chick is the best. Check the clock, take a shot, get shot, shoot shot, don't miss. Spin the block, take a shot, get shot, shoot shot, don't miss. It's the block, take a shot. You the dog, you get hit. Don't choke, don't flop. Build up, shoot shot, don't miss, don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 don't break, don't break. Shot, 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 don't miss, don't miss. Shot, 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 shot.
Get the point? Okay, let's dance.
I need y'all to turn up right now. Yeah, what? Yeah, what? YP. Turn up, y'all. Turn up. Turn up, y'all. Turn up. Hey, this ain't funny, so don't you dare.
Okay.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare. Just another case about the wrong path. Here we go.
Once upon a time, not long ago, 2020 pandemic made life feel slow. Police brutality, getting black kids shot. It's a what? Police okay, what? Gun violence is great. People getting hurt, the politicians, they lazy. Just sending thoughts and prayers can't save me. Laws in the policy, they really need to change ways.
I grew up in the churches, but it came with a story. Somebody shot my friend in the chest with a 40.
Please break the silence. Please stop the violence. Shooting and killing. Why are y'all violent? Pulling me over, they racial profiling. The mamas is crying, the system is smiling. It's a reaction, the people need action. We need much more than
Hashtag the caption. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. Just another case about the wrong path. 1, 2. Good night.
From the city of
Brianna,
last name
Taylor.
This is a movie and this is the trailer. These holding guns always be
On the run.
This world is so cool.
We can never have fun.
People doing drive-bys, throwing their gangs up. Every time we call for help, that's like the hang up. What? The system need to change up. Black and brown people are in pain.
It's the same, bro.
Gotta see things clearer. Hiding on the eyes, but the eyes
in the mirror.
Hard to sweep it under the carpet.
Even at the supermarket, black people are target.
What's the future for a black little boy? Cop shot the kid, he was playing
With a toy.
We tryna build what they trying to destroy.
Young Prodigy, we the ones making noise. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. Just another case about the wrong path. 1, 2. Good night. Go on it. Go on it. Go on it. Go on it. What? Go. What? Hey. Hey. What? Go Kaya. Go Kaya. Go Kaya. Yeah. Hey. 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 Whoa. Whoa. Go. Ho. Hey. 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 What? Yeah. What? Go. Yeah. What? Good night.
Young Prodigies.
If any of y'all are wondering where y'all can find us at, we are on all social media platforms, and y'all can follow us on at The Real Young Prodigies on Instagram, and anything else, The Real Young Prodigies.
We know that raising our voices together is essential to make sure our rights are respected and to create a more equitable and equality world. To dive deeper into what it means to raise our voices in advocacy and become engaged, we want to invite up Maddie Spalding in our panel for Our Voices Matter.
Hi, I'm Madeline Spalding. I'm so glad to be here today. My gosh, how do I follow the Young Prodigies? Like, that was fire. I'm so hyped right now. Like, so good. Yeah, and for real, we got to raise the power. So thank you, Young Prodigies, for giving that performance and setting the tone. Because, yeah, this can be a moment to come together and really build power, which is important. So that's what I'm here to talk about today, and what our panelists are here to talk about today. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction of myself, and then we'll just go down quickly along the panel. And you can talk about, you give your introduction of your name, and then what you do and how you advocate in your role. Okay? And then, so my name is Madeline Spalding, she, her pronouns. I do development with Louisville Youth Group, so I get to spend time building relationships and raising money, and so that's how I get to advocate for my community as a trans person. I advocate for our youth. And so let's work on down. We have Cicella. Please go ahead.
I'm Cicella Durling. I am from the University of Louisville, where I do work and study on disability studies and advocacy, as well as global public health. So that kind of sums up what my passions are, and disability justice and health equity. So I'm excited to be here with all of you wonderful, wonderful people. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Sumetha Rao. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. I'm really excited to be here today, and my passion is the intersection of environmental climate justice as well as equity. So really happy to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mackenzie Roller. I'm a student in IU Southeast. I am very passionate about student rights and advocacy. I mainly go with and advocate for queer rights and making sure that all students have a equal playing field when it comes to being in school. So thank you all for letting me be here and speak to you all.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Saunders. I'm a senior at Georgia Taffy Tap. I use my art to spread information about sexual assault, and thank you for letting me be here.
Okay, thank you, panelists. I'm so excited to get to ask you the rest of the questions. I do want to give a little bit of context about this panel and why I was picked to moderate this year. So thank you, Gretchen, for asking me to moderate. Thank you for having me in this room as a trans person. This is extremely validating. So yeah, appreciate it. My background, I have a master's in curatorial practice. We've already heard that word today, curating. The root word is cura, which means to care for. So my background is really in community caring. I care for certain communities. I did a little stint at the Cabbage Patch, working with at-risk youth. It didn't work out because I hadn't transitioned yet, so it kind of fell apart, and I realized to do the work properly, and build relationships the way I need to do the work, I first have to figure out, I knew who I was, but I had to get there. So now I'm there, and I can be authentic in every relationship. And that's important because we have to build trust when we build power. So my work now as an out trans person is mostly with the trans community. I work with Kentucky Transgender Support Group and the Trans Wellness Coalition. The Trans Wellness Coalition puts on the Trans Wellness Summit. Youth, mental, and physical health is part of that. So it's an ongoing issue in that regard. Also, as an out trans person, my spouse ran for judge last year. So she doesn't share the same last name, but she didn't win. But that really brought our whole family into the conversation. And so now with what's coming down the pike from Frankfurt attacking the trans youth, even cis children in the schools are going to be violated and are put at risk due to legislation. And it's really all children, all women, because as we know, when people are scrutinized, it's minorities who are targeted. I'm struck by the art that I saw when I walked in from the TAP school. I couldn't help but notice, so many stories in that artwork, but protection of the community from violence and keeping guns off the streets, but especially keeping metal detectors out of the school is an important issue for everyone in our position because we are targets everywhere we go, and metal detectors can be, sorry to get political, they can be an excuse for discrimination. So back to my notes so I don't go off on a tangent again. So I advocate for my community by engaging the heart through art. Part of that is caring for the community and healing. I moved recently from healing to prevention of further harm. And so my art now is activist in nature. I activate my community, and I advocate to people who are in a position to listen and have impact. So our voices matter, and I'm so glad to have that theme because we get to share our stories at this moment. So we're up here to share our stories on this panel, Our Voices Matter, for our personal stories and our stories of how we're lifting up our community, while also supporting ourselves and our community at the same time. So, my question, panelists, can you each share a specific example of how you actively advocate for gender equality and empowerment within your respective fields? And how do you believe these efforts contribute to the larger goal of achieving gender parity and inclusivity? We can either work our way down if nobody wants to jump in, but I would feel, if you feel compelled to answer the question now, then please speak up.
My heart's throbbing, but I'll go ahead and start. So, in the realm of disability advocacy, the concept of self-determination plays a pivotal role in empowering individuals to navigate their identities and assert their rights. So through a lens of self-determination, I've witnessed the transformative impact of empowering disabled individuals to explore not only their disability-related needs, but also their broader identities, including their gender identity. That's so important. So by placing power in decision-making in their hands, that self-determination aspect, right, we get to be the masters of our fate. We've observed how this autonomy fosters a deeper understanding of who they are. I mean, we all want to know who we are, right? So self-determination is so pivotal. This extends to gender identity in the facet that it can be complex to explore. I mean, it can be very daunting and scary to deep dive into who you are and what your needs are. And through my advocacy work, that's basically what I focus on, is how can we be who we want to be and get the assistance that we need so that we can fulfill our dreams and our goals. So self-determination is pivotal and hand in hand with gender identity. You cannot know who you are without exploring that. So that's kind of what I have to say about that.
I guess I can go next. In my work, I work in the sustainability field, and the sustainability field actually has really strong representation of women in it because it is something that requires you to think broadly about not just individuals, but different communities. It also requires you to think on a longer range, so not just today, but what about the future generations? And because it already requires that expansive thinking, it naturally attracts women because that's what we're good at. That being said, the field can do a lot more work to make sure that we are including more people of color, more gender diverse individuals, people with disabilities, and be more expansive in that sense. But environmental issues are at their core an equity issue because the same communities that are already experiencing systemic, economic injustice or racial injustice are also, or gender injustice, are also subject to environmental injustice. Depending on, where you live, you could have higher exposures to chemicals and toxicity in the environment. You could be more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. You could have, less resilience personally just because if you're already impacted by poverty and then you have to deal with higher energy bills or property damage from a storm, that's compounding impact on the same communities over and over again. So it's really important for us to center the voices of the communities that are most impacted by environmental issues in our work, and we continuously strive to do that.
I am very new to advocacy work, so this is only my second event that I've spoken in front of people. but I'm more online when it comes to advocacy. So as a student, I'm very busy. So I try to engage and participate in discussions that bring gender equality and queer rights and really any, social issue that's really big right now to the table when we're in school. I try to encourage open conversations that challenge stereotypes and promote understanding. Especially as a student, we talk a lot about social and community issues. So I try to really, open the conversation and make everybody comfortable and make the conversation understanding for everybody. Yeah, basically, just coming at everybody in an engaging conversation and respectful about everything, and basically just challenging stereotypes and yeah.
I have always admired those who advocate for gender equality and especially women's rights. And so when I got the opportunity to use my AP Art portfolio theme to focus on something that was important to me and could help out a community, I chose to focus on sexual assault awareness and how sexual assault is in the justice system for women. And my pieces were focused around and inspired by victim blaming and examples of what isn't consent, and Denim Day, which is a day where women come together and wear denim in support of a case that happened in Italy where a young woman was sexually assaulted by her driving instructor, and years later, after he was convicted, he wanted to appeal his conviction, and the Italy Parliament accepted his appeal because her jeans were so tight that she would have had to help him take them off. So and that's just one of many instances where women are not listened to in the justice system when it comes to sexual assault. And I feel really grateful that I was able to bring that to light. And since I'm in high school, my artwork was up in the hallways in order for my peers to ask me questions about it or just get interested to do their own research. I believe letting young women in high school even be educated on topics like this is a very good way for them to go on in life and want to be a part of their community and advocate themselves.
That's great. I heard a lot of really great answers in there. I heard a few strategies that were pretty resonant with everyone on the panel. You all seem to be interested in communicating and cultivating respect, first and foremost, which I think is crucial to having some kind of good action, right? If there's not sincere communication among both parties, it's just not going to go anywhere. And then autonomy. Part of that cultivating respect was autonomy and respecting everyone's bodies and just identities and starting there. And then lead by listening and artwork and education. So you have to listen to know what resonates with you and put that out there, and hopefully it connects with everyone else that you're trying to communicate with. Coming from an art background, that's where I got started. Art is communication, and education, and hopefully transgressive and crosses boundaries. So I'm really thankful for your answers. Thank you all. Could you all each provide a concrete example of how you empower individuals to become proactive citizens and in advocating for gender equality and women's empowerment, given that this panel is on Women's Equality Day and 19th Amendment themed? So how do you inspire people to become citizens.
I can go ahead and start this one off again. I think one of the most powerful things that we can do is lead by example. There's the saying, actions speak louder than words, although that can be problematic, but I think it kind of gets the point across that when we step into these roles and we take on these leadership positions where we're at the forefront of these initiatives and this change, that speaks for itself and allows people and gives people permission to do that for themselves as well and start self-advocating. So what comes to mind in particular for me is, we all know last year Roe v. Wade overturned. And I had never really done a lot of activism work, a lot of advocacy, but I wasn't really in the places and spaces that I felt like I needed to be. So I started participating in the rallies and going to these events and bringing my child along with, because again, it's that lead by example component. We want to uplift our future and put them on a path that is the end goal of equity. And in order to do that, we need to have them in the same spaces, learning these things. And for me, it was making sure that not only was I in the spaces and places that I needed to be in order to talk about these very important issues, but it was bringing my son along too, so that he was right there, seeing all of you and assisting in this alongside all of us, because it's so important that we are in it together. So again, lead by example. We got this, we do.
So one of the ways, I can give you one example of how we're trying to address the sustainability issue and also think about how that could potentially, improve the lives of women. And that is a telework policy, something as simple as a flexible work policy at work. So when we have an internal team at Louisville Metro Government called the Green Team that's open to any employee who's interested in sustainability to kind of talk about issues that matter to everyone. And we did a survey where we asked about sustainable behaviors that people would be open to adopting. And one of the themes that came up in that survey, and we had over 1,000 responses, was that people really wanted more flexible work options. And in talking with Gretchen and and other people about this issue, we started to realize that it's not really, the environmental benefits of not commuting as much are great, but there's a lot of other reasons why people really were interested in this option. For one thing, women tend to, this is the reality of it, whether we like it or not, is they tend to take on a bigger burden at home in terms of domestic work. And having a little bit more flexibility allowed them to be able to balance that better, give them more autonomy in their day. Another thing that we heard was young mothers who had to come back to work really felt like the transition was a lot easier if they had the ability to work from home more. So just making sure, but then the other downside of that is, and this has been studied and researched a lot, and there are a lot of benefits to women to having more flexible work, but then the downside is that if women are able to work from home, then they can tend to, again, be given the burden of domestic work even more or childcare even more, because they're staying home anyway, so they're expected to work a full-time job and do all of the work from home. So it's really important when we design these policies to make sure we're understanding what the trade-offs are and design them in a way that we're not having any of these unintended consequences.
I think when it comes to empowering individuals, I think a big factor of that is uplifting voices whenever you hear somebody. Especially if it's like a student or someone in your local community, that's not going to be heard very loudly because it's local. And I think that when you uplift voices and they become heard, more things get done by, like government officials. When I did my Frankfurt rally, I was just a small student. Nobody knew who I was. But I met Madeline and a lot of other great people and representatives who helped me speak out. And even though what we wanted didn't turn out how we wanted it to, it was still really great for, you know, a lot of people to be able to hear us and it make it across so many different platforms and states. So I think when it comes to empowering people, it's definitely uplifting people and, you know, making sure that they are heard.
With all of the different laws that were being passed after Roe v. Wade, with abortion rights and access to health care, I felt very called to talk about that thing. As a teen mom myself, I know how hard it can be to be a young mother or just be a mother in general. Raising a child is hard and it takes a lot of sacrifice and patience. So with not having the choice for yourself to start that journey can be extremely hard, to have to go through motherhood and it not being your choice. And when a lot of people decide to argue about abortion, they don't take it upon themselves to look at the facts and actual statistics. So I decided to write an informative essay. It was a part of an assignment for school, and I titled it Having Informed Conversations. Just giving information about abortion and about the people who decide to have abortions. A lot of people who decide to have abortions are already mothers with kids who know that they cannot afford to have another kid, that they like mentally cannot afford to have another kid. And I believe that having the facts and statistics put in front of you can really change your perspective and make you want to look into it more and see actual stories of people who have been denied the option for themselves. And even young people who may not end up having a firsthand experience with this until they're much older. It's important that people in my generation are still educated on topics like this, because they, even if they don't end up ever having to deal with it, they can advocate for others and have all of the facts behind it.
So listening to your answers, I was also struck by a few things that are super important to mention. And so one of those, and you all touched on it in your own way, but to be explicit about this conversation is groups aren't just monoliths, right? We have intersectionalities that need to be considered. And I know that in my community, creating space is something I have to actively work at, because as a white trans femme person, we tend to outnumber people in support groups and tend to be the focal point of the media. And so making sure that my advocacy and activism is focused on, again, the people who need support, and those people who come seeking support need to have a safe space. So advocating, for instance, in a gendered space like this for non-binary people, non-binary folk in my community, maybe there's non-binary people in the audience today who don't feel, you know, perfectly enfranchised by either men or women. So the people who have the most intersectionalities seem to be the most vulnerable and therefore need the most protection. So if we're ever able to make those spaces, I think it's great. And one way to do that is to bring your kids and to bring your families. So the Breonna Taylor marches, my spouse and I, we have 3 young kids, and we were intentional to bring our kids to those marches. And now with SB 150, we are intentional about having our JCPS kids up in front, just because we have the safety and support to be able to be in this position to advocate for the people that we know who would like to be in there but don't have the spoons. Maybe you've heard that expression, just don't have the spoons for it. So yeah, that's awesome. And then also, I heard a theme about creating space. Also, it struck me with the Women Equality Day that it's also equality among women should be something we strive for. So again, creating spaces for people who maybe are overlooked within a minority is an ongoing challenge. So thank you for that. And then body autonomy and working for that. I'm glad we all are working in that direction. But it's not that way everywhere, right? And it's not even that way here. There are attacks constantly from outside of women's spaces, sometimes within women's spaces and inclusive spaces in this society, but also globally. So that leads me to my next question, which is, the fight for women's equality extends globally. How can local and international advocacy efforts complement each other? And what strategies can bridge cultural differences while advancing shared goals?
I was really grateful to be invited to speak here. This will be my first time speaking in front of people about these type of topics. And I think that inviting young people into spaces to advocate for what they believe is important and inviting them to places, even if not to speak, but to just learn for themselves, is a very good strategy in moving forward in the fight for gender equality and equality for all. Because people my age were the next up to vote. We'll be voting, some of us will be voting in the next presidential election, and being able to educate ourselves on topics that we may not hear in school, that we may not ever hear about elsewhere, except for seeking it out or being invited by leaders, is something that will help in the future.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what Madeline said, but I always tell students that it's like creating space is really good, but I always tell specifically young women to take up space, because this is a predominantly male-driven world, and if you don't take up space, who is? Because I think a good strategy is also engaging in active listening to young women and understand the unique challenges and perspectives of local communities. I definitely think that can bridge culture differences. And when you listen to local younger women, that definitely helps tailor the message to resonate with local needs.
Right. So one of the interesting intersections of sustainability and gender is some of you may have heard, especially if you work in the environmental world, of Project Drawdown. It's a study that evaluated all of the different strategies that exist to prevent climate change and kind of prioritize them based on which ones were most impactful. And to everyone's surprise, one of the strongest global strategies that emerged was investing in women. And the reason for that is because globally, you'll see that overpopulation is one of the things that puts a strain on our resources, and it's a growing global problem. And the healthiest way to deal with that is to invest in women so that they have the opportunity to get an education, to enter the workforce if they choose to do so, and the opportunity to choose to have a family and to plan a family versus a family being forced upon them. Mm-hmm. And improving the quality of life for women basically means, giving them the opportunity to experience a lot more in life, which naturally tends to mean, fewer births overall, which reduces the strain on resources in the most healthy and positive way. So that's one of the ways in which globally the fight for investing in women is really important in climate change. A couple of other examples where that could fit in is, especially in countries. So I'm from India, and a lot of what we see communities doing there is one example is that my state in India has just started women-only buses. And this is because transportation inequity is such a big problem. And we find that a lot of people don't send their young girls to school and they don't go to work because they're afraid of, taking a night shift and going on the bus or being on a bus where there aren't a lot of people. So this just encourages more people to participate in the bus system because they feel more secure and safe. And more usership means, not only reduced emissions, but just more safety overall because there's more eyes in public spaces. So that's another example. And then I'll plug in one final example and stop talking. But another great driver of climate change and pollution is just overconsumption in total. There's just a lot we're consuming more than we need to. And we don't always think about the full supply chain impacts of the things that we buy. Especially a lot of you that are on social media these days have probably heard of companies that sell, knockoffs of high fashion brands for $5 or less. And I know those can be tempting. We all love a good deal, but there's reasons why those things are so cheap, and it's because they're not paying the people that make those things, and a lot of times they're women or people of color or people in disadvantaged communities. They're bypassing environmental regulation. They're finding loopholes in the law so they don't have to comply with those laws. So it can be overwhelming to start thinking about every single product you own and where it came from, but if you just start to think about it, be a little bit more conscious, it gets easier and it becomes more clear which companies really align with those social and environmental goals and which ones don't. And then we can put our money and vote with our money and put our money where our values are.
Wonderful. All that's wonderful. I think most people here will agree with the statement that disability rights are human rights. And yes, it's so important that we are inclusive. And I would have to say, we've talked about listening, which means we need to be sharing our stories. We need to be using our voices and every opportunity that we can so that we can allow other people to have that empathy to see what our perspectives are. Oftentimes, individuals with disabilities, we are not part of the planning. We are often reacted upon as opposed to being proactive and inclusive. And so I think the more we share our stories, we're able to identify some of the problematic policies that we need to address and revise so that they're more inclusive and just better for everybody. So I think empowering individuals to recognize that we all have a story, right? Sometimes we're like, oh, I'm just a normal person who average, but you have a story, you have experiences that are sometimes we think are so unique, but the more we share our stories, the more we realize we are way more connected than we actually realize. We have more in common than we have not in common. So when we share our stories, we're able to invite other people to say, hey, I've experienced that or something similar, and then we can collaborate. And then we can get together and say, okay, how can we make these changes that are so desperately needed so that we're all healthy and that we're all safe and that we're all included and we're all represented.
Great answers. Thank you all. So I'd like to respond because listening to you all just gives me so many things to say. So Zashe's story, back in January, we lost a trans woman in Louisville at the Swift plant. Her name was Zashe, and she was a refugee from Uganda, and I had never met her. And I was surprised, and I asked my friends if any of them had ever met her, and none of them had. This woman was a refugee and lived with her mother, and because we lack resources from a serious lack of funding for queer issues, we can't have translators for our support groups, right? Getting sign language interpreters is something that we have just started to move into. So because the risk factors and intersections in the trans community are actually elevated in most instances. So in most risk factors. So Zache is this November going to be memorialized during our Trans Day of Remembrance, which happens on November 20th every year, and we hold the Trans Day of Remembrance in November to memorialize the hundreds of trans people who are murdered every year globally. Most of them are BIPOC trans femmes. So BIPOC trans femmes, most of them come from Brazil. And it's really a global thing that I've put the last few years with some community collaborators into making sure we mark this occasion and remember it as a way to heal our community from the trauma of just being trans. And this year, it's going to be even more meaningful to work with Zache's mother, come up with an art project. I'm pairing her with a BIPOC trans femme artist because we need to reach out to that community. Obviously, those of us who have the support in my community to do these things needs to do a better job. As far as disability rights, yeah. So I don't know if you knew this, but gender dysphoria is covered by the ADA. I didn't know that until about like a month ago. So I'm surprised now. ADA, the ethic of building inclusively when we build new buildings and create new spaces is essential. Constantly need to, I personally need to be working in that effort. But to do that, again, we have to have investment, growth, right? Conspicuous consumption is a global issue. And as was just mentioned, Sumedha said that, mostly it's women globally who are the victims of those systems. So thinking about our own connections across the globe is important. And when it comes to having money, we need to remember that we have means in this country. There are people who give lots of money to lots of issues and lots of businesses. And the reason I'm in development is I was shocked because I found out that 1% of all the money that goes to nonprofits in the United States goes to LGBT issues, and 1% of that money comes to the South. So as far as capacity building, the money isn't there. So we have to find other ways to come together to support each other, to build connections. And so I'm so grateful to be hosting this panel today with you all because I feel that this is an opportunity for me to advocate, for these women up here to advocate for what they do and let you know how they're working hard to bring equity to us all. And I hope that you'll see this panel as an opportunity to activate yourselves and the people that you know and get passionate about your story, what connects with your own identity, and find the people who need to hear you and hear your passions. So thank you all, and thanks for having a great Women's Equality Day.
Let's give another hand to these inspiring leaders. Come on. Our future is brighter because of their work, and they do amazing work. So thank you so much personally from me. Thank you for all that you do. There are also a number of ways that you can continue to be involved in advocacy. Please check out the Ways to Get Involved table to learn more about groups that are working on women's rights, and also there are different vendors, so please go around and check out their tables. Now we are so delighted to welcome onto the stage two more talented performers, Selena Townsend, and people are already ready to hear you. So welcome them, thank you.
Disaster music.
faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. All it takes is one wrong fight. All it takes is one hit right. Grab the gun and say your goodbyes. You never know if you'll make it home by the night. We have to make it right. Losing it before you even live your life. Your mom shouldn't have to see you in the sky. Looking up to see your star shining bright.
What is going on? Feels like the world is ending. Too many people dying. Where should I be standing? Never know who's next. Please put the guns down. If you would have put that gun down, we wouldn't be on lockdown. If you would have put that gun down, then he would be here. If he would have put that gun down, then they would be here. If he would have put that gun down, then she would be here. If he would have put that gun down, then I would be here. Kids are losing their father. Okay, I wish that I was here just to see another day. Mourning mothers, bleeding, broken hearts, people crying, bullets flying. This is tearing us apart. I'm trying to get us out the dark, but you keep relighting it. When you make that gun spark, breaking all these families' heart. It's never too late to restart. Yeah, it's never too late to restart.
You don't got your license, but be dying in the streets. Imagine everyone who loves you falling to their knees. Do it for yourself. Do you really want to leave or be stuck in a cell where your only view is trees? Y'all deserve it better. We can make it out the rain together. I know inside you're all hurt, but risking your life won't make it work.
Disaster music.
No.
I'm losing my friends. People scared and nervous too. What are we gonna do? You knocking people out their shoes. We sitting on a porch, see a car creeping through. Praying to my God, please don't let us shoot. When will it stop? We're stuck in a loop. Y'all know this ain't right. What we gonna do? It's like a virus, but worse than the flu. I wish you could see this from my point of view.
Wings spreading like a bird, you're flying. Innocent people hit their crying. They had nothing to do with it, but bullets don't see that with it. Didn't mean to, but you hit a kid over something stupid. Now you live with it. Is it worth the risk? Yeah, is it worth the risk? No.
Sitting on the street, posted up on the block, there go dead. We used to play on that sidewalk, put the guns down and fight with your fists. But we all know the only ones who will are the realest. Kids through 17 dying, now do you feel it? Destroying the world, and I know you can see it. You don't need a gang, stand on your own 2 feet. And I know you could do better, just try to believe it.
Disaster music.
Can we give them another round of applause? I would now like to invite Dr. Jabani Bennett. We invite you to move on to the next part of our program.
So we're going to go in a moment of creative play inspired by our speakers, inspired by all the energy that made this moment right now happen. Because something is happening right now, and you are in it. So I need, whatever your ability is, we're gonna snap together because we're co-creating a thing, right? So I'm gonna give you a beat. If you wanna snap, if you wanna tap on your body, if you wanna tap on the chair, we're gonna do a thing together. Taking the energy from our singers, from our musicians, from the DJ, to the photographers, to the organizers, to all that's here. Let's snap to this beat. We're gonna say some words over this snap, whether it goes fast or slowly together. That's because, that's how life can be. So if you speak other languages, or you know sign language, you can use that as well. But I'm gonna use English words. The first word we're going to say is yes. 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 And we're going to sing that. Everybody go. Yes. Yes. Then we're going to say ah. Everybody say ah. Then we're going to have a sound that shows when you're working. Everybody do a little grunt. And then we're going to say a no. Everybody sing a no. No. And then let's end it with a yes. Ready? Go. Yes. Now we're going to put all of those together, okay? So when we sing a yes, this is thinking about our ancestors. Yes. So we're going to think about your grandmama, your great aunt. Let's go back, your great grandfather. Let's bring them to the room. So if this is a movement thing, so you can go like this, thinking about your ancestors. That's going to be our yes. Or you can reach back to them and remember. Let's say yes, and let's think of our great. Our people that are in our veins. All right. Let's give them a yes. Yes. So look at the people in this room as you're all. I'm able to breathe while you're breathing. I'm able to see while you're seeing. And if you're not seeing, I'm able to be here where your energy is
for the Muhammad
living.
Ali Center.
So we're going to say, please look at the people around you. You may see it just a minute ago, whether it's a text that hurts your feelings or it's a whole system that hurts your people. A no. And a no could be even your brain if you're dealing with mental health challenges right now. There's plenty of no's, but we just did a yes. We just did an ah. And we can recognize the no's, right? So, everybody, recognize the no's. Let's be uncomfortable for a minute. Yes, we are. There's a lot of similarities in who we are, but there are some no's, right? Let's be real. So let's get in the no's. It's not pretty, but we're not going to stay there long. We're not going to stay there long, okay? So let's get in the no's. Ready? Go. No. 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 Did a yes, we did our ah. We did our no's. No's uncomfortable. What about when you working? When you like eyes on the prize? Maybe you working internally inside of this inner world, or you working with others. There's a that's when it gets into the grunt, right? So everybody, you can do you working hard. Let's work hard real quick. Let's work. as much as we should. And our big wins. Our big wins when we come together. You know the energy. You know the synergy. You know how, we don't have to put some intellectual words on it. You know how that feels in your body. Whether you're 3 years old or you're 95. Right? That's what we lean into. That's what this moment is about. It's going back to that yes. So that yes is our ancestors. That yes is the people we're sharing breath with right now. That yes includes that no. That yes includes that workout, right? It includes the win. And we need that. That's why we have each other. That's why community is important. We're not an island. So everybody, give a yes to that win. Give that yes to that win. Let's go! All right, everybody, give yourself a hug. Give yourself some love. We couldn't do it without you. In all your parts and all your messiness. Messiness meaning you're not perfect. We couldn't do it without each other. So love up on yourself. We have more work to do. We all right.
Yes, yes. That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. We would like to invite up to the stage Joanne Wise about her exhibit at the Ali Center and a chance for you to engage in community art.
Truly wonderful to be here. Earlier in the year, I felt very, very privileged to be invited to join with 6 other artists, women artists, to mount an exhibition in the Bond Gallery here at the Muhammad Ali Center on the 4th floor. The theme, what we were asked to do, is from our own unique perspectives. And my perspective was from what I also feel is a voice of people not often heard, the older white woman, and speaking my voice and my perception of sociopolitical, sociocultural, personal, or community issues that concerned me. So I would very much encourage you to visit the gallery today on the 4th floor. I don't see some of the people that are special to that. The artists that are included are Melisha S. Woods, Lanaya Roberts, Morgan McGill, Chantrice Martin, Nikki Douglas, and then Amadeus Shank. I don't know that any of them are here this morning. Many of you know, one of the things I'm going to suggest, many of you may know Renee Campbell. And Marlisha has a piece there that honors Renee's grandmother. So I would suggest you pay attention to that. And the other, one of the special art forms that does address some social justice issues is poetry. Many of you probably know Marta Miranda. And Marta gave me permission to use one of her poems in one of my pieces that are down there. This was truly meant to happen. The 7 of us each agreed to do an Arts in Action program that was part of the exhibition. The last Saturday of each of the 7 months that the show is up. Between my calendar and the months that were available, the August 26th was the day that I signed up to do my Art in Action activity. Then I got an invitation from Gretchen, would you be part of the planning committee for the Women's Equality Day, August 26th at the Muhammad Ali Center? It's like, whoa, yes. So I did get with Gretchen and Bess Goldie, the curator here, and so my Art in Action is involving you. I'm inviting you to go to the 4th floor, and there are 2 ways that you can participate in this particular exhibition. I've got a couple of tables down there with a variety of it's table art, just coffee table books that we cut up that has all sorts of images. If you could find a single image that represents in some way a small commitment, something where your voice can be heard, something small that you can do. And there's paper down there and pens and tape and glue sticks. Just make a small, there's also white paper, just a half of a copy paper, and put that together with a small comment of your commitment. I'm going to collect those, and we'll be making a quilt that will be hanging here at the Muhammad Ali Center, and then I'll give to Gretchen for the Office for Women, that will represent at least some voice heard and committed to today. The other thing I'm going to invite you to do, if you choose, one of my 4 pieces addresses racism, and I call it, the name of the piece is called Say Their Names. And on it, myself and other people have written the names of some of the 229 people of color who were killed by law enforcement between May of 2020, George Floyd's death, and December 5, when I started to design this piece last year. If you are aware of or sensitive to or would like to memorialize the name of somebody who was killed by law enforcement, not necessarily even within those dates, I invite you to put their name on that piece downstairs. So with that, I again, am truly privileged and pleased to be part of today's activity. If you are not able to stay today, the show is up until December 18. I really encourage you to visit. It is a powerful, powerful statement of women's voices. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne, for all your words. To close us out with the call to action, I would like to introduce Representative Rachel Rourke, the youngest person elected to the Kentucky House of Representatives, and Representative Keturah Huron, the first Black LGBTQ legislator in our own Kentucky legislature.
What an amazing day to be in the room where it happens. I am State Representative Rachel Rourke, and as of November of last year, became the youngest female ever elected to the Kentucky House of Representatives. Now, I think everyone in this room knows no one gets anywhere overnight or without a group of people to support them. And for me, what that looked like was a intense confidence that as a young person, my voice did matter. And it was because of events like this and community support, community groups that I joined, that I knew that my voice did matter. And I didn't have to wait until I was name and age. Didn't matter, didn't have to wait. I could do something today, no matter my age, that impacted my community, and my voice mattered. So with that, one of those impactful instances took place 10 years before I was running for office. I was 15 years old. I was part of a leadership group called Louisville Girls Leadership, and I see Miss Carmela Jackson's in the room today. But our founder, Marsha Weinstein, actually had a group of self-identified sophomores who said they wanted to be in a women in politics focus group. And she asked us the bold question, how many of us had ever thought about running for political office? And I have to admit, only one person in that group of young ladies raised their hand to say, I'm interested in running for political office. And it wasn't me. And with that, I mean, I had every reason to be interested in politics. I said I was interested in politics. I had an intense passion for electing women into office. I knew about the lack of female representation. And had personally been impacted by social issues such as domestic violence, where I'd lost a cousin to it. And so I think for me, I was extremely motivated, but yet had never considered putting myself out there in that type of setting. So today, I will ask you the same question. Raise your hand if you've ever thought about running for a political office at any level. Look around, look around. I want to say thank you to those electeds who are in the room. Thank you to those who have run, and thank you to those who will run. And as you look around, I hope this is inspiring to say we still lack that confidence that every single one of us should have to say, I could do that too. And it's not to say that each of us are going to, but I think it's really important that we consider how much energy it takes to put yourself out there, and it doesn't happen alone. Yes, there's the one person who's on the ballot for that race, but there's also hundreds of people behind them supporting and helping us to do what we do every day, informing decisions, having tough conversations, bringing issues to us. We can't do this alone. Service is important, but it takes all of us to stand up to say, this is how I fit in, my voice matters, I will be part of the process. And I hope that as you leave today, you're feeling inspired to step up into your power, to reach out to us electeds, or to run for office yourself. And with that, I will pass it off to my colleague, Ms. Katora Heron.
Wow. I am State Representative Katora Heron, and I represent the 42nd District, and it is an honor and pleasure to be able to serve and to be able to serve with folks like Rachel. Rachel being young is super inspiring, and being in this space, and I walked in and seeing the multi-generational, the multicultural space that is here today. I've only been here for about 20 minutes, but the energy that I got when I walked in was like no other. So thank you all for hosting this event, and then most importantly, thank you all for knowing that it was super important for you to be here and to participate. I think my road and journey into the work to elected official to just everything was very different. I've always worked in community with youth and families. But to be honest, I was the person who, when I got off of work, I didn't want to watch the news. I didn't want to read a newspaper. I just felt like that if I was pouring into my youth and my families, that I was doing my part. And that eventually changed, eventually knowing and understanding that pouring into youth and families, that you give them everything that they need, and maybe in 2 weeks they come back and they had the same issues. And it made me realize that it's bigger than that. It's the policies in which are put into place. And and even today, I still don't like politics. People are like, how does that even happen? I don't. I enjoy the policy piece. I enjoy being engaged and being in community, but the politics of the work is what I don't like. And I think that when you talk to other people, as I've been talking to people this summer, we've been recruiting folks to run for the House. One of the things that I hear people say is, I don't like the politics of it. But unfortunately, life is political. No matter what it is that we're doing, whether you are trying to talk to your family members about what we're gonna eat for dinner, some politics that go behind that. How are you gonna convince somebody to go to a steakhouse and they don't like steak, right? And so everything that we do is political, and that's something that I've learned. But the thing that I want to put upon you all today, and I guess my call of action would be, is no matter what it is, make sure that you're in community. I think that, when I look at my life prior to working with my youth and families and then going home and put myself in a bubble to now being out in community, is completely different. And so whatever the thing that you care about the most, whether it's food justice, whether it's housing justice, whether it's domestic violence issues, environmental justice, whatever it is, make sure that you are in community and learning from other people, teaching other people. As Rachel said, you never know when that moment is gonna be when someone says, hey, you should run for office. You never know when you are gonna get that spark, or just in general. But we cannot make a change if we are doing it by ourselves. So it's so important for us to be in community. I see that we've got the League of Women Voters and some other folks to the left. So I hope that everyone in this space are registered to vote. Yes, those are some quiet claps, but I'm gonna make sure that everyone in the space who's eligible is registered to vote. And what I would ask you all to do, as we know, we've got a big election that's coming up in November. We've got a big election next year. Next year is the 60th year anniversary of the Freedom Summers. It's a lot that's going on. So what I would encourage you to do and what I would ask you to do is, one, make sure that you're registered to vote. Make sure that you're talking to your friends and your families about the importance of registering to vote. I don't care who you vote. Actually, I do care who you vote for, but I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. But make sure, and then make sure that you go out in your community, in your circles. And I think the biggest thing is that as we are looking at making change in our community, the only way that we're going to do that is if we're having real, open, honest conversations. And we can teach people some things and we can learn things from some folks. So again, I just want to thank you all for being here. Make sure you register to vote. Make sure you're engaging other people and encouraging other people to register to vote. And for our young people who are in the space, our ladies from Grace James Academy, thank you all for being here. I know the real young prodigies were here earlier. But for our young people and for the other folks in the room, remember that if there's anyone who will be 18 before Election Day, they can go ahead and register to vote and will be able to vote in November. Thank you again for being here, and God bless.
All right, we made it. That is the end of our program. Thank you all so much for coming out today and being a part of this wonderful change that we're making in the world. And a great thank you to Gretchen. I know she didn't want to be a spot of light, but thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, thank you all so much and have a wonderful weekend.